Hi everyone, hello. Okay, so today I'm back for a brand new gender identity FAQ style video. I did go onto Twitter and I asked you if there's any questions you want to know, anything you want to know about me, any sort of help or advice you might want. So you sent me a load of your questions, so make sure you come and follow me on Twitter so for my next one you can definitely get your questions in. And let's get straight into the video. So if anyone is relatively new to this channel and might not know, I do identify as non-binary, and if you want to go further in, my actual label inside non-binary is genderfluid, which basically means my idea of my gender doesn't necessarily sit in one point at one time. So sometimes I gravitate towards more female, sometimes I gravitate towards more male, and sometimes I kind of stay in the middle, sort of non-binary, genderqueer, and that's like my sort of way of identifying myself. So let's get on with your questions. What do you have to say to the twats who think that transgender doesn't exist? Bye, bitch! And do you have any advice on ignoring them? I live with 4 transphobes. I need to learn how to cope with their idiocy. Basically, just remember that you are flawless and they're not. You are so much better than them, and if they want to live in their idiotic world, then let them. Like, don't be offended. Don't get put down by people who have such stupid views. I want to know someone's gender identity, but I don't want to be offensive. Is there a polite way to ask? So this one can be touchy because I know a lot of people will be like, well, isn't it obvious if you ask someone? People will see me and instantly just think male, which is perfectly fine, and I don't have a problem with that. But like when it comes to pronouns and stuff and wanting to know what gender identity is, if you just want to ask me, people like me, I will be open to talk about it, and I'm open to discuss like, my identity and my pronouns and everything. If you ask someone their pronouns and they are like really arsehole-ish to you back, they're just being a bit of a dick, because I think it's very, very nice that someone would actually want to know someone's pronouns and not just presume and then like accidentally misgender them. If you're still a little bit confused, I think you should maybe just get to know them a little bit more. When you first meet someone, it doesn't really matter what their identity is to you. When you become more friendly with someone, it's then okay to be like, so what do you kind of identify as? What are your views on a world that is not defined by gender norms and the archaic traditions of gender roles? Do you think they help us due to the fact that they exist? We can choose to ignore them or live however we want. Wow, what a question. Gosh, gender roles can be important to certain people. Like there's a lot of people in small towns and stuff, especially where I grew up, that females would have the child and look after them and be a mum and sort of just like cook, and then the males would always go out to work. I feel like to a lot of people that can be okay for them, and if they're happy doing that, then that's perfectly fine. Like I don't think we should actually say to someone who does follow the sort of like stereotypical gender roles, like stop it because you're wrong, because that's no different than them saying it to us. I think it's just a little bit more complex than just saying get rid of gender roles, because to a lot of people that they're happy to follow them. My brother, for example, him and his family and his wife and stuff, they follow like a stereotypical gender role. He goes out to work, she looks after the kids, and they have a happy family and they're perfectly happy doing that. And who am I to say that, oh, that's just stupid, why would you do that? Oh, you like why make the wife stay in or whatever? Like that's ridiculous. And I would never do that. And they're not the kind of people that are gonna say to me, why are you dressing up as a female sometimes? Why do you wear girls' clothes? Why are you doing this? Why are you not, having a masculine job? They wouldn't do that to me, so why would I do that to them? I think the only problem with gender roles is when people push their own ideas onto you and be like, you're wrong. That's where the issue is, not gender roles itself. If identifying as genderqueer, you like someone who doesn't identify as pansexual / panromantic, would you still go for them? I would say it depends on what the person you're going for is after. I mean, if they like male presenting people and you are male presenting, regardless of if you identify as genderqueer, non-binary, all this stuff, if you're male presenting and that's what they go for, then go for it. Ask them, maybe go ask them out on a date or whatever. Don't let your necessary gender identity stop you from pursuing someone you might like. The same way as me, I am predominantly male presenting. If someone likes female presenting people, I probably wouldn't go for them. If someone likes male presenting people and they're just a cis gay man, I would still pursue that person because I am male presenting. So if you like someone and they might identify as if they're like a straight man and they like female presenting people and you're female presenting but you happen to be non-binary, don't let that stop you going for someone, because you never know what could happen. Do you feel clothes are gendered or just lovely pieces of cloth? I'm a trans boy and wears anything that fits me. Not too long ago, me and Callum, my housemate Callum, we were going shopping at the shopping centre just by our house, and this woman came up to us in the store and said, you do know you're in the girls section? And we were just like, are you joking? Are you literally? I almost shouted at her. I was so close to be like, what the hell? Clothes have been gendered over society, and also colours. Colours are so gendered. It's so ridiculous. I still can't believe that. Literally, it took me about 7 hours to find a pink pair of Converses that were in a guy's size, because I've got big feet. I got them sized 9-10 feet, so literally no store would do them above 6 and 7, because it was oh, but they're girls' shoes, and obviously I just can't. How long did it take you not to get anxious to when the topic of gender would come up? I'm 21, yet I still in the back of my mind have this tiny part of me that feels like a scared 3-year-old again when gender debates pop up out of nowhere and I'm not prepared for the stupidity. It all depends on who I'm with and who I'm around. I still now now get funny feelings when certain people might bring up a topic, or certain people might talk about trans people, or certain people might talk about, you know, gender itself. Only one person I work with actually knows that I identify as non-binary, and the rest just think I'm just a male who is slightly feminine. I don't feel like you necessarily ever get over that in some way. I feel like it always depends on who you're with and who you're around. When I'm with my friends, when I'm with people in like the YouTube community, when I'm with like anything like that, and someone brings it up, I'm perfectly fine to talk about it. It doesn't make me feel like weird at all. It just depends on the scenario and who I'm with. So I feel like you're always gonna have maybe like a slight anxious feeling, but over time it will disappear a little bit more. Like if I went back to Devon now and started talking about my gender and saying that I don't identify as male or female, people would lose their minds. Like people would lose their mind. People would think that I'm either being crazy, I'm, you know, doing it for attention, or like I'm just, you know, I'm confused and completely like loopy. So even now I'd be scared and anxious to talk about my gender identity to people back home, like back where I came from, because they just wouldn't understand. They're not with it. Yes, I don't really have like a definitive answer to be like when I got over it, because I don't feel like you ever really do. How old were you when you figured yourself out? I don't think I still have. As you get older, you change so much, and there's always going to be new things that you do discover about yourself. And for me, I feel like I'm always on a constant journey. You know, in 10 years time, I might completely change my idea of who I am, and people do change. And that's one thing I want to like let you know is like, don't be afraid to change, and don't be afraid to change your mind of who you are now. You may identify as one thing now, but don't say to yourself, that's it for life now, because you'll change so much. When and how did you announce coming out to your family? So I came out to my sister when I was 11 years old, when I was in France on holiday. I had a very, very accepting family back then. You know, I had a gay uncle. At the time I was still seeing my mother, so I came out to her when I was like 12 again as well. And I was always very flamboyant. I was always very kind of like overtly camp, so it was never really a shock to anyone who didn't know, really. When it came to my gender identity and identifying as non-binary, I didn't tell anyone. I just did it on YouTube. I was like, you know what, I'm gender fluid, that's how I identify. And I went on Twitter and all that stuff and sort of announced it there. I was just very lucky. I was very, very lucky with my family. How do you deal with coming out 24/7? Because I lose so much energy when I do it. Again, I'm quite lucky in the sense of like, I am quite flamboyant and feminine, so like most people just assume I'm gay without having to tell anyone, which obviously for me, it makes it a lot easier. When it comes to coming out as my gender, I don't really tell that many people unless I sort of know them, because I'm like, what's the point in trying to make a discussion about this thing, because most people just won't understand. Do these people really matter to you? Like, are you coming out because you want to come out? Are you coming out because like you have to go? Like, what's the reasoning behind your coming out to these new people? Like, how many people are you meeting a day that you need to come out to? Like, why is it so important? Do these people need to know? Is it important in your life that these people know? Like, I think you might need to reevaluate that scenario. Do you feel like it's okay to identify as non-binary / agender simply because you hate gender, or do you have a dysphoria and that's all? I think you can identify as what makes you feel comfortable, and if you don't like the idea of identifying as male or female or something, you can identify as agender, which obviously means you kind of don't really associate yourself with necessarily gender itself, which I think is perfectly fine. I think maybe because you say that you hate gender, I feel like you might need to explore that and understand like deeper as to why you don't like it, and maybe then you can maybe resolve this and maybe find a label that might suit you better rather than agender. Again, this is another one of those things that, you know, you will change over time, and your ideas of certain things will change over time, so just don't be scared to like explore, you know, why this makes you, like why gender makes you so angry and why you hate it so much, because not every single person who is cis and identifies as this is gonna like want to attack you, or gonna want to, you know, badmouth you or disagree with who you are, and I don't know if that's maybe where it's stemming from. I'm non-binary and have a hard time expressing myself in a more feminine way in public. Have you any advice on to be confident and how to do so? When I first started expressing myself more feminine, I would do bit by bit. I'd put a little bit more makeup on and then go out and feel comfortable like that. And as I got more comfortable, I'd then wear like a little bit more, and then like, especially more at work. When I'm out in London, I don't really feel too like uncomfortable at all, because I feel like I can be quite free here. But going to work and things, I'd wear like a little bit more mascara, go to work. People would get used to seeing me like that. And then I would go and I'd wear a little bit more. And it's less sort of like shocking for some people, because it sounds bad to say, but a lot of people in society, if they see like a male-bodied person or whatever dressing more feminine, wearing makeup and stuff, it is still quite shocking to someone. You know, if you slowly progress it and do bit by bit at a time, people aren't so like triggered over everything. And then also just for your own comfortability, like when I first went to work in nail varnish, oh my gosh, I was so scared. I was like, this is really scary. And I work in quite a rough area in London. It's not like a you know, a really, really central London where like everyone's everywhere. Like, this is quite a rough area as well. So I was very kind of like nervous to go to work with nail varnish on. And the reactions I got from people, literally like especially guys, were all like, at first it did bother me, but I pushed through it because this is how I wanted to identify and how I wanted to express myself in these moments. So now I can go to work and I can wear nail varnish, wear all my makeup, and I just don't care. Another one was when I first started wearing chokers. When I first started wearing chokers in public, the first time I went out, I was so self-conscious. Literally, I was looking around going, everyone's staring at me, everyone's staring at me. And it's ridiculous because no one was, like literally no one was, but it was all in my head. And it's this kind of thing, you just have to like progress yourself slowly into presenting yourself more in a feminine way. Just edge yourself into it step step by step, and eventually you'll feel more comfortable. Any help in trying to figure out what your gender is? I have no clue what I identify as. Time, like that's one of the best things is time, and don't feel like you need to rush to identify yourself. I feel like a lot of people cling to labels really quickly just because it's like, oh, you know, that's what I am perfectly now, that's what I'm gonna be. Explore different identities and, you know, search up different things on the internet and look for different identities, and don't just find one and be like, well, that's it for me now, that's done. Sometimes labels don't necessarily help for certain people, and if you don't fit in a certain label, like me identifying as gay, people don't understand how I can be non-binary and gay, and I've done a whole video about that before, but like gay is the closest label that I can kind of use that explains my sexuality. So I can still use that label. Don't see one label and be like, that's the definitive like answer to that one label, especially when it comes to non-binary genders and stuff, because it can be very open to interpretation. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your questions. This has actually been really fun. If there's any more gender related stuff you want to know, please leave it down below in the comment section and I will get back to you. A massive shout out to Kelly, Stephanie and Teresa, my top 3 patrons. There's the link down there if you want to become a patron. Thanks so much for helping me do this, and I love you. And you know, there's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those links are down below as well. Come and follow me on all of them, and I'll see you all very soon, and I love you. And yeah, bye.